Alrighty, what is good, everybody? In this video, I'm going to show you how to create your own little Lego guy. So we're going to create the head, and then we're also going to create a body. What I'm going to actually do is I'm going to give my little Lego guy, I'm going to switch it up from this, and I'm actually going to give it a Batman t-shirt. So what it's going to be wearing. And then also in the previous video that I did showing you how to create the head, that actually was not following the correct dimensions for Lego as well as the body here. So what I did is I actually downloaded some dimension drawings as well, and I'm going to throw that into OnShape to make it a little bit more accurate. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to click plus, and then you'll want to make sure that you got a Part Studio that you're in. You could also just be in Part Studio 1 there as well. But I created a new one. I called it Lego Batman. Now, obviously, I'm not going to actually create the Lego Batman, but I'm going to create a Lego character with a Batman t-shirt. All I want to do next is just click Insert Image. Remember, we can always just search tools too to find this, and then you will want to import and then bring in your picture of the Lego dimensions. Another thing, sometimes this doesn't show up. What it ends up looking like is something like this, especially if you're on a Chromebook. All you got to do is press Control minus a couple of times, then you'll end up seeing this import button. So we're going to go ahead and import, and then you'd want to import your blueprint. I already actually have the Lego dimensions, so I'm going to go ahead and just run that in there. Okay. So then now, the one thing about this is, as you all could see, we can change the scaling of this depending on how big we make it. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to show you a way how we can make sure that this is all to scale. And so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to use the little square tool, and then we're going to come up here, and then we're going to actually create a little rectangle. That's what we're going to do. And so now I can dimension this out. And so as we can see here, the height of this is supposed to be 8.36 millimeters, what that is, 8.36 millimeters. And then this guy right here is supposed to be 10.11 millimeters. Oops, sorry, I made that inches. Very rookie mistake there, 10.11 millimeters. And then now if we zoom in on this, we can see how our scaling was. And so now, as we can see, scaling is pretty solid for that. So it's about the correct size, maybe. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd probably just end up going with this, how this is set up. So now what we want to do is the green check mark, and now I can go back into the sketch. I can delete these guys because we actually don't want those in there. But so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and press green check mark, and then we're going to create a new sketch. Remember, we never want to be drawing on that sketch right there. We always just want to keep that. What we can also do is we can rename this sketch too. So if we come up here, we can just put dimensioned drawing. It's always really good practice. Dimension drawing, press green check mark. Next, sketch 2, what we're going to do then is we're going to go back. We're going to actually do what we just did. We're going to redo that. And I basically want to try to make sure that the point of this rectangle is lined up here. And we can always make some changes to this too. But what we want this to be is the 10.11 millimeters. And then we want to make sure that that is by 8.36 millimeters in height. So now we've got a pretty good solid setup there. And then what we want to do is we want to actually use the round or the sketch fillet, and then our sketch fillet, however you want to pronounce that, it's up to you. But what we want to do is we want to fillet this by a radius of 1.75 millimeters. So we just type in millimeters there. And as you can see, it's actually looking very similar to our Lego guy. So we're going to do the same thing here. 1.75 millimeters, and what you'll actually notice is that it does save it from the last one. Do that again, you see it saved, and then we press enter, and then we're going to go ahead and do that one last final time. Press enter, boom. So now we've got that all filleted there. Next step, what we want to actually do is we do want to end up, we could just do corner rectangle again. I'm going to make it coincident with this, and then we're going to actually drag this guy down to like right here, let's say. Now this is saying that from this point right here to over here, that is 1.21. Let's see, 1.21. Actually, I believe this guy from here to here is 6.52. Okay, no. This right here is 6.52 millimeters. So let's go ahead and put that in 6.52 millimeters. Yep. And then now that height is 1.21 millimeters on that. So we're going to do that. Next, what we want to do is we also want to come up here. We're going to create this little guy, top part of his head, and then what we want to do is we want to make sure that the height of this 2 millimeters in height, and then this guy, the inner part of that is 3.08 millimeters. So what we can do is we can actually add 3.08 plus we got 0.9 right here of thickness. We're also going to have 0.9 thickness over here. So it's really going to be 1.8. So what we want to do is we also want to make sure that we put in our correct units here. So millimeters for both of those. So now we've got that. One thing that we could do here is we could move this over just a little bit. I just want to make sure that it's staying on there. Okay. So then now we are going to want to keep in mind that that's going to be 0.9 millimeters away from this part here. But then what we want to do is we want to make sure that we find the center of this. And so what we can do here is we're just going to run a line. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move along this guy until I find that midpoint. And then I'm just going to run this to be vertical, a vertical line right there, just like that. And so now what I can do is I can press green check mark, and then what we could do is we could select all of these faces right here. If it doesn't allow you to select it, it's somewhere along these points you have a gap in your sketch. You just got to enclose that. But then what we're going to do is we're going to do revolve. Now it's going to ask me, hey, what's our revolve axis? It's going to be in the middle there. And then now we want to do a new part. We're going to press a green check mark. Now, check this out. If I take out my dimension drawing where we don't see that anymore, you'll see that we do have that Lego face. And so what I can also do is I can select a color. That's kind of like the Lego face color right there, just like that, right? Okay. So then now, what we would want to do then is we could end up drawing out the face on there. What I'm going to actually do though is I'm going to go ahead and continue in creating this guy's body, okay? So what we end up seeing here is that we've got this where basically we've got a angle on here, and that's 80.14 degrees. That we're actually from here to here. And then if we look at it from the side, you'll see that it's actually just straight up and down, right? So now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and create a new sketch. So what we could do. I could have also went back into my last sketch. One thing that we do want to do though is we do want to make sure that we are naming these. So let's go ahead and let's put, I guess, torso / maybe. Yeah, let's just go with torso. So we're going to name that body torso, and then this sketch, we're going to name this head, because that is his head. We'll press green check mark there. Sweet. Next one, body torso here. So we're going to go into the sketch, and then now what we want to do is we want to get these lines, and we want to dimension this line out, make sure that it's horizontal first. And then what we want to do is make sure that that is 15.44 millimeters. So now we've got that set up, and what we're going to see is that this does go a little bit past that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of offset this a little bit. I'm just going to make sure that that's right there. Another thing that we want to do is we do want to make sure that we dimension this out. So this line, as you can see, it's 12.77 millimeters from the top here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in 12.77 millimeters right there. So now we've got that set up correctly. And then basically what we're going to do is we're just going to continue here and creating this guy. And so I'm going to go ahead and create my line here. I'm going to run this from this line right here to about maybe right. Let's see here. Did they give us a radius? They do give us a radius of that. I'm just going to run it to like right here maybe. And then we're going to run this over here. There we go, and then we're also going to run this guy down here. So now there are some other things that we're going to want to do as well. So the dimension that we ran, that was at 12.77. Basically, we want to make sure that this line to here is also 12.77 millimeters. So now we're going to see that that's looking good. What we can also do, now if we dimension this out, it should be pretty close to that 80.14. What we're going to do is we're going to type that in, and let's see here. It might give us, yeah, it's good. So I was going to say it might give us a thing saying that it's over dimensioned, but we should be good. So this is also going to need to be 80.14. There we go. And then so now what we also want to do is we do want to fillet this sketch. So this part and this part, basically we want that to be 0.75 millimeters. So 0.75 millimeters. And then we're also going to come in here with this guy, also make that 0.75 millimeters. Okay. So now this is looking pretty pretty good. Let's see here. Anything else that we're missing? It's saying from this point to that point, 9.74. Let's dimension that out. This could be from right here to right here. Let's see here, 9.74 millimeters. This could end up giving us, yeah, so it's giving us an over-constrained thing, so we're just going to actually leave that as that is. Call it good. Everything else looking pretty solid here now. So I'm going to go ahead and press the green check mark, and what we're going to do is we're going to extrude that body. And so now what we need to figure out is, hey, what's that thickness that we're going to extrude this by? And it's actually 8 millimeters, what we got on here. So then we're going to go 8 millimeters. And then we're going to press the green check mark. Now, as you can see, is it centered though? Now, the extrusion is not centered. We've actually got it going in one direction, so we don't want that. We actually want to make it symmetric here. Also, another thing, I've got this where it is add, so this is going to be its own part itself. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do new for that part, and then it's going to be a different color. What I'm also going to do is just hide this dimension drawing real quick, and I'm going to come in here to this part. I want to rename this because I also want to name my part. So this is the head, right? And then we're also going to rename this, and we're going to call this torso, just so that we know, hey, this is the head, this is the torso. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go into the appearance panel, and I'm going to change this from his gray shirt. We're going to make it a black shirt. So now we can see that it's starting to have that black shirt kind of set up like a good old Batman. Okay, so then now what we're going to do is we're going to add on, we're going to give him a face here, and then I'm also going to end up giving him that Batman t-shirt as well. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to create a new sketch. We're going to call this sketch Batman picture. Okay, so we're going to name that Batman picture. Now the sketch plane, we're going to have that be on the front plane once again. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert an image, and this is that Lego Batman image that I've already got from earlier. And then basically what I want this to do whenever I bring this in, I want to scale this so that it kind of lines up with what we've got in here already. And so now that does actually look pretty good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change the color of this shirt for our guy. I'm going to change that to like a gray maybe. Maybe that'll help us be able to see a little bit better. Let's try this too. Let's try a white. Let's do white. Does that help us see this a little bit better? Yes, it does. So, yeah, honestly, this is looking pretty good for me. I think I'm going to roll with that, what we've currently got. Now, I am going to end up changing this color, though, too. But let's go ahead and let's do this. So for this part, what we're going to use is a mixture of, we can use arcs, and we can also use the spline tool. So we're going to go ahead and create a new sketch, and then we're going to have this sketch be on his actual torso here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in here, and then I'm going to first start with the line tool. So I'm just going to create these lines right down here. Now we're going to go ahead and go right there. We're going to stop, press escape. I'm just going to press L on my keyboard again to continue, and then we're going to set this guy up right over here. The other thing that we want to do is we do want to make sure that these are horizontal to each other, so those should be level with each other. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to our line tool again, and then we're going to send this guy down here. Boom, escape, L, and then we're going to send this line down here. And then what I also want to do once again is I want to make sure that these lines are horizontal to each other. And so now we've got those, and then finally I want to do two lines. So I want to do a line right here, and then I also want to do a line right here. Okay. Now one thing that I also could have done is I could have ran a line down the midpoint of this t-shirt as well, just so that we only create one part of the Batman logo on here. And so we could end up doing that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just create the whole thing here, just so we get a little bit extra practice and so you can see that. But then what we're going to do is we're just going to use the spline tool is what I'm using. And I'm just going to follow along with this with some splines. Now, if I did end up using the arc tool, that might actually be better. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to make some little fine adjustments in here too as I'm doing this, just because, hey, maybe I notice some things are a little off. This is a horizontal line, but as we can see, our image is actually a little off on that. So let's go ahead, let's bring this guy down just a little bit, and then this guy actually does need to go down just a little bit too. Going to go back to my spline tool. I'm going to hit this with about probably 3 points and then add that in there. Now what I can also do is if I press escape, I can mess around with these guys. This is looking pretty good though overall. So probably not too much I need to do with that. Then we're going to go to the spline tool again. And then what we want to do is basically just follow this outline once more of this buckle piece for Batman. I don't know what gear he's got on his buckle. Clearly it doesn't look like he's got too much gear on here. But so we're going to do that outline. Then next what we want to do is I would say use the offset tool, but sadly we actually cannot use the offset tool. What we could also be doing is using the ellipse tool here. So now the ellipse tool, if I hover over this, we can click on this and then we hover over this. It says sketch an ellipse by defining its center point, major axis, and minor axis. So what we can also do is this. So if we go in here, it's probably going to be just above this guy, and we can always end up moving this around a little bit too. But basically I'm going to try to create this, and then we're going to put its major axis right there, and then we're going to have this guy be coincident. So we're going to also put that right there, and then we're going to move this guy up right here. So this is probably something we could have done for this last spline as well. What I'm going to actually do is I actually am going to do that just to make this look a little bit better. It'll appear a little bit better. I'm going to run this, and then we're going to run this guy. So that does look a little bit more official, right? This is Batman, so he's got to be looking good. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay on that ellipse tool, and then I'm going to run this over here. And then I'm going to run this part up here. And then so now we've got that where that's set up. Okay, so then next what we want to do is actually create Batman, his logo here. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the spline tool here. And we're going to kind of outline this guy. Now I'm going to only outline half of this because what I am going to do, I actually changed my mind. I actually am going to mirror this just to make it easier on us. And so I'm just going to use the spline tool. I can press escape at points that I don't want it to be kind of curved, and so I do want that to be like a jagged point there for our Batman's for his ears that are up there. So then now we're just going to follow along with this. This is another point once again that I don't want it to be rounded out, so I'm going to press escape. Then I'm going to go back into my spline tool, and then basically we're going to follow along with this guy here. Okay, another jagged point. I'm going to press escape. Then come back in here, hit this guy, come around here again, press escape, do this again. Then we're going to run through here, press escape again, and then so now we're in the middle here. So then what I want to do is I want to run a line, and what I can also do is I can toggle that to be a construction line, and then basically we want to run this guy so that's going down just to like right here. Now we also want to make sure that this line is coincident with that, which it does look like it is coincident. It's running into that construction line. And then now what I can do is I can actually mirror this. So now what we can do first is select the mirror line. Then we're going to select the entities that need to be mirrored. So I'm going to select all of those. I'm going to select this, right? I'm going to also select this right here and then this right here. And then now you can see that we created the little bat logo on there. So then now what we can do is press green check mark. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go back to the sketch and I'm going to rename this. And I'm going to name that bat shirt sketch. Bat shirt sketch is what we're going to name that. And then I'm going to extrude it. And then now you can see it extrudes out big time. Well, we don't want it to go that far. Maybe we want it to go 0.5 millimeters. Let's see what that's going to end up looking like. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, 3D printer probably would have a hard time picking up that much of a small detail whenever 3D printing this, unless you're using a resin printer. That'd probably be good. But we're going to call it good for this. So we're going to press the green check mark. Now, as you can see, I'm going to take out this Batman picture. Now you can kind of see the outline of this, right? So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to actually double click on this. We're going to make this, let's do this. We're going to actually make this like a Batman yellow. So let's see here, what's the Batman yellow? We could go on there, probably maybe something like that. What I could also do is I could search for the RGB values. So right here, the RGB values. Let's actually do that. I'm going to Google search RGB values of Batman yellow. I don't know. Let's see if something shows up. FDE 311. Let's try that out. So this is going to be the hex code actually is what we got here. So it's FDE 311. That is pretty solid. That actually does look pretty close to Batman's yellow, right? That looks pretty good. So then now what we want to do is I'm going to actually click on all these parts. You'll see that it's kind of becoming where it looks orangish. That's because it's selected. And we just want to select all of these faces. Now the reason why I change it to Batman yellow first and not black is just because it'd be harder to actually see those. So you could have actually made this black, but then you'd have to hunt those down where those faces are at. Now what I want to do is right click this, and then I'm going to add appearance to 10 faces, and then I'm going to press black. Boom. Now we've got our Lego guy with a Batman t-shirt on. Okay. Sweet. Next part here, what we're going to do is we're going to try to add a little bit of a face on here. Okay. So if I go back to my Batman picture, you'll see that we've got this little sketch of him right on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add in this this mouth here. We're going to give it where it's smirking, and then what we'll try to do is do like a little black right here as well. Maybe that's going to go on here. Okay. So then now let's go ahead and let's begin. So we're going to go ahead and create a new sketch. I'm going to name this face sketch. So now that's the face sketch, and then what we're going to do is we're going to create a new sketch, and then we're going to click on the we actually want to be careful this time around. We could make it on the front plane. What I'm going to actually do is this though. I'm going to click on the front. I'm going to create a new plane. So if I just go to the plane tool, or you can search it. And what we're going to do is we're going to offset this by this distance of our face here. Now if I go back to my dimension drawing, you might remember this on here. It does tell us what the distance is of that. I gotta hide my Batman picture, but it is 10.11 millimeters across. So basically, to get to the edge of this face, it's gonna be 10.11 millimeters divided by 2. So it's gonna be half of that, right? So now you'll see that it's on the edge there, and then that's actually where we're gonna create this. So we're gonna create our sketch on this edge here on this plane. So now, if I go over here, I can just slide the plane one up. Then now I can click on this face plane. I'm going to exit out of the front plane. I'm going to click on the plane one because that's where we want to create it on. So then now we can start to create our actual face for this guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the Batman picture. I'm going to take out the dimension drawing. So now what we can do is we're going to go into this face sketch. And then now I can start to create the outline of his mouth here, right? He's giving us this little smirk. So then now what we can do is just outline this guy. Boom, 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 bam. And then what I can also do is press escape again. You know, maybe I want to come out here, kind of create this little smirk looking area, right? And so now we can go down here, just like this. And then we come right over here, and then we kind of connect this. So we got that. What we can also do is kind of run this on the inside too. So we can see it's kind of going like this, and then it kind of comes out here, give us some detail for his teeth, right? So now we're going to run this. There we go. Boom, boom. Run that up here. There we go. Maybe we run this like right here. And then now what you're going to see is we keep on getting all these geometric constraints is what they're trying to throw here on us, but we don't really want to do any of those, so just going to kind of zoom in a little bit. So now you'll see that we created that little part. So this is for his little smile, right? So that's pretty good. What we can do next is we're just going to go ahead and create his little eye outline. So it almost looks like it's going like right here, and then like right here maybe. And then this actually looks like it's like a straight line, maybe not a straight line actually. So I'm going to stay on this line, just connect that right there, boom. And then now what we're going to also do is we're just going to go right along here and then just kind of create this part of his eye as well. So I'm going to kind of look at my last one too. Just kind of go with that. And then now we can kind of connect these guys too. you know, just like this. Okay. Now maybe I want to bring this guy down just a little bit. Kind of seems like that would be the case, right? Where we'd want that to be down a little bit. Now I can press green check mark. Now I'm going to hide the Batman picture. And then so now you can see our little face sketch, right? So now what we want to do is we want to actually end up using what is called the wrap tool. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to click wrap tool. And then now what we're going to do for our tools, we're going to click face sketch. And then the target is going to be actually on this guy right here. So then now what that's going to do is that's going to end up wrapping this. So if you look at that, you'll see that it's kind of popping out here, right? Now that's because this is a surface. So we could do it like that where it is a surface. If I press the green check mark, you'll see it kind of looks like that, right? It looks a little weird. But if I go back in here, what I can also do is I can do solid, and then we can add to this. Now, as you can see, it's kind of popping out a little too far. So what we would want to do is maybe put in here 0.2 millimeters for how far that comes out. Okay, so then now if I press the green check mark, what you'll see is that we do have his face having been created. Okay, now if we come in here, what we can do is I can change the colors of this, right? Because this was all where it's black. So we can end up adding appearance to 3 faces, and then we can make it black, right? Okay, what we probably want to also do is in here, we want to make this white. Just because this is his teeth, right? So we're going to change that appearance right there. So then those are white. And then so now you can see it kind of looks like Batman a little bit. So what we would also possibly want to do is we could end up moving all of these entities as well for the sketch for the face. So if I just click all of these, what I can end up doing is I can use the transform tool. So we can just search for that here, transform. And then what I can do is I'm just going to shift this down a little bit because it does seem like it needs to be moved down just a little bit on here. Now, if we had his actual mask, then yeah, we'd probably keep it where it was at. But because I don't have the mask, we're actually not going to do anything like with that. And so now it's giving us an issue here, though. Now, let's see here. What's this issue that it's giving us? Let's go back right here, and then let's go to this. Let's go to face sketch for tools, face sketch. And then target is this guy. Now, why is it giving us this issue? Let's hover over this. Did not Boolean operation fail to return a valid part? So something else that I noticed is that this did become silver just then whenever we did that last step. So let's see here. So we basically just took our face sketch, right? And that is also gray in there. So let's see here. Where did we, let's go to this revolve. Maybe let's see what's going on there. Yeah, why is that silver now? It's a very good question. I don't know. I'm going to try to figure this out, and if I figure it out, I'll put it out down in the comments there. But yeah, this guy should not be silver here, which is a really weird thing. But you know, basically what we were just trying to do there is we were trying to move these guys down a little bit, but clearly something happened here, and I'm not too sure as to what did happen. Let's just try this one more time, though. Transform. I'm going to try not to move it down as much, maybe. Maybe go down just a little bit, you know, just to make it look a little bit better. Just because I'm kind of looking at this and I'm like, it needs to be down a little bit. Yeah, so then that works. So there we go. So we've got that. But yeah, so that's basically how we create a Lego guy that has a Batman t-shirt. So we've just got his body and then also his head, right? Next steps of what we would want to do is we would want to end up putting in here, you know, his arms as well, and then also some pants. So if I get enough likes on this, also comments and subs, then we'll end up doing that next part as well. But thank you so much. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for those notifications. See you later. Bye-bye.